surviving the earthquake after pulling survivors from the rubble. Rescue teams came from around the world last month to help Türkiye in the wake of two massive earthquakes. They risked their own lives to save lives during rescue operations, but now that they've returned home, how do they assess what they saw? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is Türkiye's earthquake rescue volunteers. It's been a month since the deadliest earthquake in modern history hit Türkiye. One 7.7 magnitude was followed quickly by another 7.6, killing tens of thousands and shattering the lives of millions more. Now the country faces the daunting task of disposing of hundreds of millions of tons of debris. In many cities, rescue teams have been replaced by thousands of trucks and excavators clawing away at the mountains of rubble. Meanwhile, 1.6 million people are being sheltered, many of them in the 332 tent cities set up across the region. The picture now is very different to just days after the quakes, when teams from around the world ascended on the country to lend their support to rescue operations. They pulled thousands of people from the rubble, and now those survivors across Türkiye are coming to terms with what they lost.
Everywhere is filled with people's cries of agony.
We are working to clear our stores. Our homes have been destroyed. We started on emptying our homes. Now we are working to take out the stock, or what remains of it.
We never lost hope. The rescue workers carried our hope. Thank God for them. Thanks to everyone.
But while those survivors mourn so much loss, they are still grateful for the efforts of rescue workers who risked their own lives to save so many others. Joining me now to talk about that experience are from Lahore, Rizwan Naseer. He's founder of Rescue 1122. It's a Pakistani emergency service. From London, David O'Neill was the commander of the UK search and rescue team in Türkiye and is the head of rescue and international operations at the London Fire Brigade. And from Budapest, Peter Jackovics. He is the commander of the Hungarian National Organization for Rescue Services. Thanks all so much for being with me. All of you were among the first international teams to arrive in the quake's immediate aftermath last month. You've all returned home now, and you've had some time to digest your experience. Now, all of you had extensive experience in other disaster zones as well, but David O'Neill, I'll start with you. What did you take away from this experience, and how did Türkiye actually compare to work that you've done before?
Hi. Firstly, I just want to share the thoughts of everyone here in the UK with the people of Turkey. This was a disaster on a scale that none of us were actually used to seeing. So despite 30 years of rescue experience, this mobilizing to such a densely populated modern city was very, very different for us.
Right. I mean, you know, the latest UN report is saying just the amount of debris created amounts to 100 million cubic meters of rubble. I mean, how did that impact what you were trying to do? Give us a better idea of what you really went into specifically in such a massive quake.
So our objective is obviously to save as many lives as possible, as quickly as possible. There's a very narrow window of opportunity to save life and rescue in such a disaster. I think the way these buildings were designed and the way in which they collapsed actually left a lot of survivable voids where people were surviving. So I think being in a kind of construction that we're perhaps used to and trained for here in the UK, put us in a good position, really, to identify likely areas of survivability.
Right. Rizwan, would you agree? Was that your experience as well?
Oh, yes. I think what David has said is very appropriate. The level of and the amount of devastation that we just saw in the different cities of Turkey because the first city where we were deployed was at Yemen and then Hatay. I think it was unbelievable. We've seen the 2005 earthquake in Pakistan, and which was, of course, about 86,000 deaths. But there we didn't have that many high-rise buildings. Over here, there were about 6-story apartment buildings in most of the cities, at least at the Yemen. And like every street had at least 1 or 2 buildings collapsed, and the rest of the buildings either were in a slope, were tilted, or they had so many cracks that nobody could live over there. So virtually imagine entire cities being cleared of all the people who live over there. Cities without electricity, cities without water, entire people living. I think 4 of the cities, the people had virtually left. Everybody had left from those cities. So the amount of devastation that we saw, we were there the very next day, and everybody was trying to run away and run out of the cities. I couldn't imagine the airport being totally, people had come onto the runway and they were desperate to get out of the city. And the devastation that we saw was really unbelievable. So we had to work on multiple sites. It was not just one site, and there was, the moment we arrived on the very next day, people coming from every side, please bring in a light locator, try to locate that if somebody's alive in this building, and it was just overwhelming what we had to respond to over there. We were right next to the governor's office, which was the main place where all the activities were taking place, and we were stationed there. So everybody was coming, and we had to see. Normally, we would deploy at one site. Over here, the number of sites was so many, and it was difficult to use, and the people were so emotional, because imagine if you got your loved one or a family person inside a building, they really want the person to be searched and located if it's possible, so that the search and rescue operation can subsequently take place. So this was an unprecedented level of devastation.
It is. And I mean, Peter, everyone has cited that what set this disaster apart was the sheer scale, the mass of territory that it covered and destroyed. And there's also the issue, given the level of aftershocks and successive quakes, how much were rescue workers like yourself, how much were your lives at risk while working in this disaster area?
It's a very interesting question, because always important you will be on time and you have a quick response. That was a key element of this intervention. What was very important was the Turkish authorities sent the request on time and quickly, and the Hungarian government offered this search and rescue capacity as soon as possible and quickly too, and was the short distance to travel to Antakya, and we arrived within 24 hours. That was the most important and key element of the mission if you want to be successful. Comparing my previous experience, that was a huge disaster that was necessary to on time and quick start the rescue operation, and of course was difficult to working during the aftershock situation. But for us, because we are trained and we experienced it, and we classified by the UN system, and we have good colleagues with us. So we created the good experience with us and start the searching operation on time, and make assessment at the Antakya in the downtown.
Yeah, and Peter, you are still actually offering your services now to the recovery efforts. You know, so given the scale of this and those 100 million cubic meters of rubble that needs to be cleared now, how much help do you think is still needed?
Of course, need search and rescue operation teams who are able to work on site, digging the debris and able to search and analyzing the situation, and they have tools and equipment to save the life. And this is important. We look for the victims, and the time frame is very different here to be there and working continuously, never stop, and continuously daily light, midnight, and continuously working, and we spent there 6 operational days, and we saved 17 live victims.
Okay. You know what? I want each of you to kind of relay, a personal story, I think, here, because always in the face of disaster, there are moments of real hope and even celebration. David, I'll start with you. If you could tell me kind of one anecdote of what you saw that made you say to yourself, this is why I'm here, this is why I do this work.
Yes, I think the UK team were lucky, for want of a better word, lucky enough to have 2 live rescues on our first day on the ground. And one of those was a 91-year-old lady who was rescued from an upper floor of a damaged building using some railings as an improvised ladder. So the kind of system we wouldn't entertain in the UK, but the quick thinking of the team meant we had this quick couple of rescues. And I just think that quick morale booster, that quick rescue really set the tone for the 10-day operation. I think that really lifted the spirits, not only of our team, but when each of us go to the team leaders meeting and report about successful rescues, it lifts the mood of all of the international teams and lets everyone know that there's still hope there.
Right.
So I think for me, that first quick rescue, and there were others, and there are other stories of reuniting an entire family, but I think that first quick rescue of the elderly lady lifted everyone's spirits.
It's amazing too, David, because you said when you came over, there was almost a kind of personal connection you felt to working in Türkiye because of the relationship that ordinary Britons have with Türkiye as a destination.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I personally holidayed in Turkey last year with my family. It's a very popular destination for the UK to go on holiday. And I think people in the UK have a real affinity with Turkey. So I think having that in our minds and then seeing the whole community engaged in this big rescue effort, we just felt absolutely welcomed. We felt wanted. And I think that affinity and that relationship with the Turkish people is absolutely cemented now between our countries.
Right. Rizwan, tell us about, your experience, the one that stands out to you the most, where you really felt this is why I do this. No matter what the psychological challenges, no matter what the risk to my life, this is why I do this work.
So the moment something took place in Turkey, I think since Pakistan has a very, very close relationship with Turkey, and I think since the Khilafat movement taking place and a very, very old association with Turkey. And so the moment people heard about it, our team was immediately ready, and we were able to immediately mobilize. The Prime Minister immediately gave nod, and we were able to move that very day for Turkey. And what we saw over there when we got in the next day and we started the search and rescue operation, I remember at one of the sites, we were able to get about 15 people out alive. We searched in total about 146 buildings. And we were able, we identified and we located about 247 dead bodies. So that's a huge number. And we were there till the president of Turkey came and met the teams, and they were demobilized. But what I remember from the very start, when we were actually there, a couple of sites where we found these bodies directly conducting a direct operation, we were able to get 6 people on the second or third day. And when we got to that site, I just you can't imagine the feelings. We knew that there were about 3 or 4 people we identified. They were out inside alive. We got to a place, there was beam there. We just couldn't, because the moment we started cutting, debris started falling. It was unstable. From the back, we tried to approach the building, and we were in communication with them. And then we had to go from the side. We had to clear one of the walls, and finally we made an entry. So the operation started somewhere in the afternoon. But next morning, after about 80 hours, we got a 15-year-old boy out alive. And, the feelings of the family, the feelings of, I just can't describe those, the way and the emotional feelings which were there. And the boy, the sister of that boy, and then the brother also were saved.
Right.
And it was just an, at one time we had lost hope, because from the third side, when we tried to make an access, finally we were able to make access from that stair area and the kitchen area, which had collapsed, and we finally got to them. But otherwise, I think it was the emotional feeling. Then getting out, another lady with 50-year-old, the daughter was standing outside, desperately waiting for that her mother, who's about 50 years of age, could come out alive, and she came out alive. So it's like there's no words to express these feelings and the devastation that we saw, especially since Pakistan and Turkey have a very, very close, very old relationship.
Right.
So everybody felt in Pakistan as well. They were like emotionally attached with what was going on in Turkey.
Indeed.
So,
Peter, let me ask you, I mean, because it's ironic, because to do the work that you do, you have to be emotionally very strong, very tough psychologically. Yet still, you see these moments where you do feel that emotion, this sheer human connection, knowing that you've saved a life and how that's going to affect a family like your own even. What was that moment for you?
Yes, historically, as you know, that Hungary, Majaristan have a special relationship with the Turkish friends and families, and therefore this mission, when we spent there 6 operational days, not was only search and rescue operation, it's more than one, could be humanitarian and also diplomatic missions, because we demonstrating the solidarity of all of the European countries and all of the solidarity of the search and rescue colleagues and friends. This is a small family. We always to be ready to help each other and cooperate with us and want to help with family. Doesn't matter you are saved any life.
Right.
Life is very important. We saved in the Hungarian team 17 life victim with 3 child. What does mean? We give it 17 family a future.
Exactly.
With safety, the life, and give it to the back to the family.
That's the reward. David, I mean, finally, quickly, when you left Turkey, were you ready to leave, or do you feel that you still need to maybe come back, that there is so much more work to do because of the scale of this and how many people still need help?
It's very hard to leave. It really is hard to tell the team that it's time to go. In the area we were working, I think it was the right time for us to leave. We'd injured 2 of our search dogs, 2 out of the 4. Our team were exhausted, working very long hours, and there were fresh teams coming in to take over. So whilst the international presence remained, it was right for us to leave at the time we did, I feel. Of course, it's always hard. There's always work to do. I was invited to go back just this week, actually, to do a documentary in Hatay province. But I think that time will come in the future. We're moving now from the rescue phase to the recovery phase, and there's other people from all of our countries that will be assisting in that new phase.
Okay. David O'Neill, Peter Jackovics, and Rizwan Naseer, thank you all so much for being with us on this segment of The Newsmakers. Greatly appreciated. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, while saving human lives was obviously the priority for the vast majority of rescue volunteers, others came to save the animals that mean so much to human survivors. After 22 days under the rubble, rescuers rejoiced in Hatay when this husky-looking dog, named Alex, was pulled alive from a collapsed building. Over 1,500 pets have been rescued in the last month, and a number of animal welfare organizations are working tirelessly to reunite them with their owners. And one of those workers joins me now. Celia Jackson is program manager for U.S. disaster response at the Humane Society, and she just returned to the United States after working to rescue quake-stricken animals in Türkiye. She joins us now from Detroit. Celia, thanks so much for being with us. You know, with tens of thousands of deaths in the wake of this disaster. Tell us why it's still so important to make the effort you make to rescue animals as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so important for people who have lost everything to be reunited with their pet. I think it really gives people a glimmer of hope. We have had some really miraculous rescues down in Antakya and Hatay, and we could tell just how incredibly meaningful it is for people to have that opportunity to see their pet again after losing everything, after having to evacuate without, any opportunity to bring their pet with them. So we've been really, really honored to be able to provide that service to the community.
Tell us about some of those miraculous rescues. What did you see?
Absolutely. So we have seen everything. We have we both received a tremendous amount of requests to find people's pets. And we also have been finding pets as we're out in the field and then discovering their owners through a combination of word of mouth, and especially social media has been an incredible tool for us to be able to spread the word when we have a pet and we don't know who the owner is. Frequently, people will see their pet on TV, on social media. We had a Facebook live stream where somebody recognized their cat and we were able to reunite that person with their cat, which is really, really special. And there's a ton of organizations on the ground, and we all work together to pass along information when we have a possible owner or a pet that we think might be together. So we've also, all sorts of different situations.
I mean, tell us a little bit more about when you reunite pets with earthquake survivors, what it actually means to their own recovery, to have their, pets are like family members to so many people, and to have them there, what it means to the human recovery in this process.
I mean, I think it makes a tremendous difference for people. There's a lot of evidence now that for people who are able to stay with their pets after a disaster, that they do much better, that they have a better recovery, especially mental health wise. Just the tears in people's eyes when they are back with their pets, when they see their pet for the first time after maybe being evacuated to a hospital. It's just really, really important. And in Turkey especially, I mean, it's very clear to all of us how important animals are to people in Turkey. There were so many cats and dogs that we encountered, and we're doing our best to provide care to all of the pets that need it.
Right. And you work with animals in all sorts of traumatic situations, not just earthquake recovery, obviously. Tell us how well or animals recover or don't recover after a trauma like this. I mean, how badly are they psychologically affected? And what should people expect when they either recover their own pet or choose to adopt an animal that's been abandoned after a disaster?
I mean, I think that animals experience a lot of the same kinds of traumas that we do. They're really scared, they're nervous, they may have issues, may not have an appetite. We found a lot of animals that obviously, unsurprisingly, were maybe dehydrated or malnourished. So physical injuries, cuts, broken limbs. And so I think having patience and compassion for those animals as they begin to adjust to their new life, they will, once they were in a safe place, those animals' personalities will come out and they'll recover. But it does take some patience and understanding. And there's a lot of really great animals that we have out there that will make great pets if they're not able to be reunited.
If they're not able to be reunited. So tell us a little bit more about your efforts now to get these animals into homes if they don't find their owners, or if they were potentially in Turkey. We have a lot of beautiful street animals. What are you doing now to find homes for them?
Yeah, there is a whole network of animal welfare organizations and veterinary clinics in Turkey. And so I know that the clinics and organizations that we are working with in Antakya will, send adoptable animals out to those welfare rescues in other parts of Turkey, and then use their social media and their advertising to ensure people know that those pets are available for adoption. If they're street animals, those organizations will work through their processes to ensure that those animals are taken care of properly, whether that's just being relocated or a lot of, I mean, most of those animals were just so kind. Like all the spirit animals that we encountered were friendly and really easy to handle, and so I think have really good futures ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, the pictures we're seeing, it's hard not to get emotional, even if you're not an animal lover, just to see the joy between the people and these creatures that give us so much. So thank you, really, Celia, for the work you're doing. It is so important. And thanks for being with us on this edition of The Newsmakers. We really appreciate it. And our viewers, of course, as well. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.